My name is Arthur Hale. I am 95 years old. And today is my birthday? At this age, birthdays don't feel like celebrations anymore. They feel like quiet reminders. Reminders of what you had and what you lost. Let me ask you something. What happens to your own happiness? When you spend your entire life trying to make everyone else happy? I know the answer. I learned it the hard way. Right now, I'm sitting in a quiet house in a small town in Ohio. There's a cup of coffee beside me. It's gone cold, but I haven't touched it. Outside the window, I see children laughing, families talking, people living the kind of life I once thought I was building. And here I am, alone, surrounded not by people, but by memories I never fully lived. My story didn't start this way. It began back in 1965. I was 23 years old, fresh out of college, starting my first job as an accountant in a small firm in Cleveland. I still remember my manager's words on the first day. Arthur, if you want to succeed, put others first. Clients must always come before everything. It sounded right, responsible, professional. But somewhere along the way, I misunderstood those words. I didn't just put clients first. I put everyone first, except the people who mattered most. In 1967, I married Margaret. She was warm, kind, full of life. She loved simple things, laughter, books, children. We went to Paris for our honeymoon. It was her dream, but I cut the trip short. A client needed me. I remember the look on her face when I told her it wasn't anger. It was quiet disappointment. I told her it's for our future. She nodded. But I didn't realize something then. A future built by sacrificing the present eventually becomes empty. Years passed and my habits only got stronger. When our son David was born, I was at the hospital, but my mind wasn't there. I was thinking about work, numbers, deadlines, clients. I missed his first steps, missed his first words, missed moments I can never get back. Back then, I told myself, I'll make it up later. But later is a promised time rarely keeps. In 1973, our daughter Emily was born. I told myself things would change this time. But success came with a price. Promotions, more responsibility, more hours, less presence. Margaret would say, Arthur, they need you. And I'd reply, I'm doing this for them. But I was confusing providing a life with being part of it. One of my biggest regrets came in 1978. My father had a heart attack. He wanted to see me. I didn't go. I told myself the weather was bad. The truth, I was busy. When I finally visited him, he looked at me and said something I never forgot. Son, money has no value where I'm going, but time is everything. He passed away 2 weeks later, and the next day, I went back to work. In 1982, my son had a championship basketball game. He asked me to come. Dad, please, just this once. I promised I would, but I didn't go. There was a meeting. There was always a meeting. That night, he didn't speak to me, and something between us quietly broke. A few years later, my daughter held her first art exhibition. She gave me the invitation months in advance. Please be there, Dad. I said I would, but once again, chose work. The next day, I saw her painting. It was simple, an empty chair. Underneath it, she had written, "For my father." That painting said everything I refused to hear. By the 1990s, I had everything I thought I wanted. A big house, money, status. But inside that house, there was silence. Not peaceful silence. Empty silence. The kind that echoes. In 2001, Margaret left me after 34 years of marriage. She didn't shout. She didn't argue. She just said, I lived my life with someone who was never really there. And she was right. I had been physically present, but emotionally absent. After that, everything slowly drifted away. My children built their own lives. I was invited. I wasn't included. To my grandchildren, I was just a stranger who showed up once in a while with gifts. Not memories, not warmth, just presence. I retired at 68, and suddenly, Everything stopped. No work, no deadlines, no purpose. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't know how to live. I had spent my entire life working, none of it learning how to be. In 2015, Margaret passed away, cancer. I went to see her. I held her hand and said, "I'm sorry." She smiled softly. "I know, but it's too late now." And that sentence stayed with me longer than anything else in my life. At her funeral, everyone gathered around her husband, comforting him, standing with him. I stood alone, and for the first time, I saw my life clearly. I had built a successful career, but I had failed where it mattered most. Now I'm 95 years old. This house is filled with photographs. My son's graduation, my daughter's art, family moments, but here's the truth. I'm not really in any of them, not in the way that matters, because I wasn't there, not truly. Some nights I lie in bed and think about all the moments I traded away. And for the first time in my life, I learned how to cry, not for what I lost, but for what I never chose. So listen carefully, because I'm telling you something most people realize too late. Skip the meeting. Go to your child's game. Leave work early. Sit with your family. Laugh. Talk. Be present. Because one day, you'll look around and realize you built a life you weren't even part of. Money will stay in the bank. But time disappears quietly. If you ask me today whether money brings happiness, I'll tell you this. I am a rich man with an empty life. No one on their deathbed wishes they had worked more, but many wish they had loved more. Given more time, been there. So don't wait, not for retirement, not for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is already here. Finish this and go to your loved ones. Sit with them, talk to them, hold them close, because one day you might be sitting where I am. 95 years old, in a quiet house, with everything you worked for, nothing that truly mattered.